marketing. Let's give her a nice warm of applause here, of Yumi. And for you, those who don't know, with Yumi, an organic baby brand, and they've been predominant D2C, native D2C, and recently they launched nationwide in every Target. So huge undertaking, major transformation for them. So just first of all, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, what a ride. I also often put out the disclaimer that this is my first time working in CPG. I have never worked in food. I've been learning so much even in just these couple days and talking with a lot of you. And yeah, Yumi's been native D2C. We launched in 2017 in Los Angeles, fresh baby food, subscription delivery. If you're a parent with young children, you know that the options are slim, especially when it comes to organic, clean certified food. And so it was pretty disruptive what Yumi was doing when they launched. Explosive growth through the pandemic, 20x growth in 2020. I mean, grocery delivery was through the roof, and so that helped quite a bit. 2021, there's this huge congressional report that comes out about the alarming amount of heavy metals in baby food, which was also just a huge moment for Yumi and really standing out and showing more broadly how important it is to think about what's going into our food, but particularly for our kids. And then this year, we launched in Target, biggest launch in baby they've ever done in July. We are a really small team, and very few of us have ever launched a brand in Target before, and so there was a lot for us to learn. And it was a huge undertaking, but it's been amazing. And I think, the whole premise for this session was just being really honest about what we thought was going to work and then didn't, and some things that we wanted to prove wrong, and some things where we just learned a lot. And it's definitely been a year of that. So now we are an omnichannel modern food brand that serves kids, and that's really exciting. It's a new chapter for us.
Well, and talk about that in terms of, this actually, if you've noticed on our beautiful agenda, it's about the myths that they went into. Yumi went into all of this, that they believed this was what was going to happen, and then this is ultimately what did happen. Yeah. And so talk about it in the sense of, what did you assume that you could, you're like, okay, we're D2C, we're successful, we're doing this, we can still do that in Target. Was there an assumption there? And then what was the reality, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I think we expected a lot more continuity across both sides of the business there. So being native D2C, we have all this data about our customers. We know who they are. We know our seasonality. We know how to drive more sales. We can watch things go up and down. I think, a logical person would say, okay, you're going to launch in Target. Every single Target, we had 600 dedicated brand end caps. Those are like 600 billboards for the brand across the entire country. Surely that will do a lot for awareness for the brand. Surely we will see such a lift in our D2C business. If you looked at our D2C traffic, you would never know that we launched in Target. Completely different customer. And we actually sell a different products there. Our D2C business is fresh food subscription. There's a few snacks and things, but it's mostly the subscription business, whereas Target is to shelf-stable products for slightly older kids. And I think we really realized, wow, okay, we have to treat these entirely separately. We have to really have a very specific strategy for D2C and that customer, and a very specific strategy for retail and that customer. And we're not, a big enough brand where we have brand marketing budgets that can do things at such a high altitude that it really, kind of speaks to everything more inclusively. And so I think that was a big learning for us, and that we really still needed to double down and figure out how to grow our D2C business outside of this, big moment that we were having in Target.
Well, and talk about that a little bit. Now, obviously, now you realize that you need to teach them differently. Yeah. So what is more specific to, say, this D2C side of things in terms of how you're marketing it, or how has it varied now? What are you relying on more in store in terms of reaching your customers?
Yeah. I think the great thing about D2C is our closeness to the customer and our relationship with that customer. Social proof is huge in the baby food space, and so we rely a lot on social influencers, creators, whitelisting content, all of that. And we really see that that's incredibly effective for our D2C business. In retail, something that I think the brand does do really well that we were able to carry over there is just great creative. A lot of the traditional, every CPG person in here knows this. These are things that we learned, that like great in-store marketing is the thing that helps you win. But we were able to kind of leverage our creativity in doing that. So even our inline trays, I think our team at Target told us traditionally they see a 10 to 15% lift in velocity because of those. Ours were driving a 30% velocity. We had competitors telling our Target buyer, like, how did they do that end cap? It was so interesting. It was really cool. So it was cool to see that, creativity kind of drives a lot across the brand, and that works, but gosh, in such a different way in store. And trying to do kind of social campaigns that drove in-store traffic fell flat. I think maybe, if there was more of a sustained strategy there, that could work. So.
Well, and also, you're talking about obviously when you say the creative, I always have to, because then you were talking creative with the digital, but totally different type.
Yeah.
You're talking more creative in terms of the packaging and the end cap, and also the product. So talk about how you had to sort of adjust all of that to build your customers in Target as opposed to what you were still doing digitally.
Yeah, also packaging. My gosh, retail packaging, nothing stress tests messaging hierarchy like retail packaging. And that was a new muscle for us. We had never done that before. We didn't work with an agency for that. We did that all internally with a 2-person creative team. And our bar, in less than 8 weeks, was the number 2 selling bar in Target. And we've done a lot of focus groups with our customers since, new customers, existing customers who have gone into Target. And a lot of them talk about the reason they picked it up was the packaging, and that it really stood out and it looked different, which was a great win for us. But again, a muscle that we had never had to build. If you're in a D2C brand, you know that once you have somebody on your website, you're in a completely immersive experience for the brand. You control all of the PDP copy, you control all of the add-ons and the sell-ups and all of those things, and in retail you just don't. The having really clear messaging hierarchy and really strong creative helped us quite a bit.
Well, also, at a time when you are launching in Target, which is, I guess you'd call it, this would be probably a store that would get more traffic during the time of inflation, during the time when people are sort of, holding on to their money a little bit more. Did that impact you as well? Organic food are not one of the cheaper baby foods. How do you differentiate yourself when people, as I said, when they go to a Target, maybe they're looking for that more reasonable priced brand?
Yeah, it's funny. Another kind of myth for us here. Logical person would say, we are like barreling headfirst into a recession. Surely people are watching what they're spending, probably not buying a premium kids product. Not true. We talk to our customers quite a lot, and particularly mothers with young children are still buying $12 eggs. Like, they don't budge on that. They care about what they're putting into their kids' bodies, and they're not budging on that, despite the fact that so many expenses have gone up in other parts of their household. We seem to be a little bit insulated from that, which is great, which again, I think if you kind of make assumptions about how your customers are spending, or you make assumptions about where their head is at, you really miss out on a lot of great insights that can advise and shape a strategy for you. So I think value is always important to play up, and I think we talk about that quite a bit, and we do so on our packaging as well. But that was a big learning for us, that if in places where our numbers feel a little bit softer, it's not so easy to just jump to the conclusion of blaming the external economic circumstances. You really got to talk to your customers.
Well, so talk about that in the terms of messaging on the packaging. And when I'm going through, like, certain things will pop out, I guess, or like, is it about it's made with this really healthy stuff? Is it more tasty? Is it like, what is it that in the packaging, what was the messaging that you were using that was attracting the audience or the customer that's in a Target?
Yeah, for us, it's always a balance of healthier that we are a healthier option, and how are we conveying that? There's superfood veggies in the stuff that we make, and so there's a big claim on that. It's an excellent source of fiber. That's something parents really, really care about, our bar in particular. Our puffs have iron and choline for brain development. We make sure that that comes up. Sugar is the number one thing that parents care about. You better believe that's right on the front of the package, and we're actually now able to say that we have 50% less sugar than the leading bar, so we're going to slap that on the front. But we're also a brand that really loves food. Again, that's something that new parents care so much about. The routines and the rituals that we have around food are so precious. Again, those of you who have young kids, you know, as soon as you have a child, it's like 5 p.m. around the dinner table is all of a sudden the most sacred thing. And so we're really a big believer in that. And we know that our families who buy into Yumi really care about food and adventurous eating and having something delicious. And so we always try and strike the balance between a product that wins on all of the kind of functional claims, but also just looks really delicious because it tastes really delicious. And so we've had a really playful style of illustration that we do that through, making sure that we're showing the product in a really beautiful way and setting that expectation on the front of package has been a big part of the play. Yeah.
Well, and okay, so then again, D2C, you can be a little bit more nimble. You can be a little bit more flexible with things. In store, is that the case? Are you able to, you know, I guess what was the biggest challenge when you were first launched in Target? And aside from assuming it would come online as well, but in terms of in store, and maybe how did you have to pivot? Because that's what we've been all talking about, being able to really adapt quickly and continue moving forward. Were you able to do that?
Yeah, I think another muscle that the company has built quite a bit, which benefited us in the retail transition, is just a real commitment and obsession with data. I mean, one of our founders, our CEO, is a mathematician, which is fun to go up against her and fighting her in battles where she can just pull data out of her head in any minute. It's like you really got to prepare for those conversations. But so we, you know, very specific example. One of the products that we launched at Target is like a puff. They're like these little star-shaped puffs that babies start to, when they learn to pick up and grab things around 8 to 10 months. And we had 2 SKUs that had fruits and veggies, and 1 SKU that was just sweet pea, didn't have a fruit with it. And all of those products were doing really well, but it was very clear that sweet pea was not getting picked up the most. And it was very clear that it was because of the flavor profile. Again, like talking to our customers, talking to potential customers, existing customers, and to help validate that. And within 8 weeks of those products being on shelves and kind of seeing where there were very clear trend lines, we, you know, our phenomenal product team reformulated, and we did another blitz of packaging, again, with a 2-person creative team amongst everything else that's going on, and a new flavor, like an adaptation of sweet pea. It's sweet pea and berry. Will go on shelves in January. And so I think that's just like very inherently Yumi, to study the data and see where we can pivot and see where we can shift and change. And it's been really great to see us use that muscle over in the retail environment. Because I think we had drawn some assumptions about like retail, you know, sets a couple times a year, and you know, have to just commit to those long timelines. Whereas in D2C, we're shifting and changing and optimizing every day.
Well, and they're known for blendables. They have all this, you know, you just mentioned you had the little berry, but is that a part of, does that play as well or have as big of an impact in store as than online in terms of you're talking nutrition? Because I'm just trying to, how are you then differentiating yourself more so when you're in store? Because at that point, you have every competitor in front of you in terms of in front of the customer, as opposed to digitally, they, you know, click on you and then they get right to you. So not that it's not as competitive, but what are you doing to differentiate that way?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is the modern parent, that customer has changed quite a bit. I mean, if you walk down the baby food aisle, a lot of it feels very legacy, very old. And for example, we became the number 2 selling bar in Target in less than 2 months. The number 1 selling bar is Earth's Best. Has been around for quite a long time, has a Sesame Street character on the front. Grover. You kind of can't resist Grover. However, a lot of parents that we talk to say that seeing a character on the front of the package feels deceptive, as though you're trying to appeal to the child and hide something maybe that mom would care about. But you walk down, I mean, even some of the new brands, Cerebelli has Peppa Pig. There's some other brands that have Paw Patrol. It's kind of in the playbook of kids packaging to put a character on the front. But that customer is changing, and that customer is scrutinizing the brands much more. And so I think that helps us in that we very plainly and very cleanly say what we are and what we're selling. And we're also one of the few brands that's clean certified, and we really play that up. A lot of consumers don't yet know about what it means to be certified clean, but that's kind of growing considerably, especially because organic, I think that's kind of table stakes, but brands can do a lot better than organic, and I think there's actually a lot of issues with organic and sometimes the way that the food is grown, and so to be clean certified on top of that is important. So we pay attention to those things. We talk to customers a lot about those things before we go formulate products and create new products that we know are really going to win on shelf.
Just because we sort of, you said it, mentioned it and we just went right by it, but the focus groups.
Yeah.
So how important is that for Yumi in order, whether you're launching a new product or launching in a new store or whatever it may be?
Oh my God, it's so important. But this is where, like I mentioned at the top of this, in exposing myself and being new to CPG, I've never worked in the same industry twice, but that truth about really knowing your customers well, speaking to them regularly is a bulletproof strategy anywhere you go. In any industry you do, in any product that you sell. And so those focus groups are really important to us because they bring the data to life in a really powerful way. A really interesting way. Again, it's really easy to just look at a spreadsheet and make some assumptions, and then you talk to people and you realize, oh, there's something a little bit different here that we can actually action on.
Where are you getting these? Are they part of your, social media that you're getting the people from, or you have information that they, maybe your email? Like, where are you getting these people to then find out what they're thinking?
It's a lot of friends of friends of friends of friends. I'm kind of exhausting my list of friends of friends of friends with young babies, so maybe I should recruit some focus group attendees here.
Anyone with new babies at home?
Come sign up later. I'll give you an espresso martini. No, and then reaching out to our customer base too, and also customers who have churned. I mean, there's still parents who think about feeding their kids even if they aren't feeding them Yumi today, and so it's really basic in that way, but it works.
Just reaching out.
Yeah.
All right, so talk.
And also, I've spoken to consumer insights consultants and agencies who will charge $30,000 for this, who will charge $50,000 for this, and there's a lot of value in that if your budgets can support that. There's also just a lot of value in reaching out to the people, of your friends of friends of friends and your own customer base and just talking to them. If I can't carve out time as the SVP of Brand to talk to a few customers each month, then I probably got my priorities wrong. I don't need to hire a $30,000 consultant to go do that.
It's a much scrappier way.
Scrappy.
That seems to be the mode today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, talk about what channels are working for you. Where are you finding the most success, both in terms of both online, digitally, and as well as in-store and Target?
Yeah, I think this has come up a few times. I don't think anybody will be surprised by this, but creators. Also, a big lever for us. I think the narrative around creators has been really interesting. Also, the rebranding from influencers to creators is such a good one. Like, it just sounds so much better, so kudos to whoever did that. But creators, I think in one regard, have really recognized their value. And some of them really operate as fantastic business people in and of themselves, and they charge a premium for that. And they have teams around them that help facilitate that. And there's certainly like a time and a place for that. There's also still just a lot of really hungry, interesting, creative creators who are really excited to make content about your brand. And so I think around the Target launch, we worked with a platform called Pear Pop, and did a pretty, modest investment there. It was about $25,000, $30,000. We drove 45 million TikTok views. on some of our new Target products. And their whole platform basically gives out a prompt to their community, and then people can opt into it or not. And if their content reaches a certain engagement level, they get paid at different rates. And so there's a lot of these interesting platforms that are popping up that facilitate programs like this that I would encourage you all to look into. And we got some weird stuff out of that. And we got some great stuff out of that. And at the end of the day, it was just a really great learning experience for us. And so I think, I've heard a lot of marketers talk about how creators have just gotten way too expensive. They're so challenging to work with. You can't really get done, anything done in the way that you maybe used to 5 years ago. And some of that is true, but there's still a lot of pockets where there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with creators. And we see some of our most successful content come out of that. I mean, and in our D2C business as well, a lot of it is creators and whitelisting and all of that.
What about in terms of what channels are actually, are you SMS or are you email or what social channels, and where are you maybe relying earned and then as far as paid?
Yeah, we do rely on PR quite a bit. We have a phenomenal brand. We have 2 female founders. We have an incredible bench of investors, and we have to exploit all of that. We have to use all of that as much as we possibly can. And so there's a lot of amazing PR about the brand. We also try and think really outside of the box and things that will drive more earned media. We just announced a pre-order for a book that our founder somehow found time to write. While being the founder of such a fast-growing food brand.
Evelyn, or?
Yeah, Evelyn. I mean, she's a journalist.
She's amazing.
Yeah, so she doesn't sleep. But it's a book about just the data and the science around the importance of nutrition in the first 1,000 days, and then the back half of it is a cookbook. And that totally aligns with our brand strategy. I mean, we care about helping parents feel smart. We care about enabling them with not just the food products that their family really deserves, but a non-judgmental, support system and education avenue for parents to really understand what they need. And so launch a book. Why not? And we have a companion book for kids called Veggie Friends, that's coming out alongside it that has just like really adorable illustrations in it. It's about how like veggies can be your friends too. And so we do programs like that from time to time around as the war was happening in Ukraine. We found as parents, a lot of us at Yumi as parents, that we're having a really hard time in just communicating to our children what was going on. And we partnered with a Russian-Ukrainian illustrator to actually write a really beautiful kids book called From Seeds Come Sunflowers, and all the donations for that went to World Central Kitchen, which is really aligned with our mission. And so, earned media and creative content is a big part of the brand, and you can't do that every day, but to have a few big pillars around that a year is really important to us. We spend too much on Meta. We're going to figure that out. We're gonna pull that back in 2023, as I think most brands are. And we dabble a little bit in connected TV. I think the jury is still out there. We dabble a little bit in paid TikTok, although I think the jury is still out there. But at the end of the day, a good testing framework, a good learning framework, trying to make sure you really understand what you're trying to get out of something before you start it is important to us. And you've got to kind of be comfortable with that media mix kind of evolving in real time.
And has it changed at all in terms of where you're investing? And since not everyone can write a book, but in terms of where you are investing, has that changed percentage-wise from, and maybe it's very separate because, as you said, it's so different in store as online. So when you're talking in Target, has the investment changed for that?
Yeah, no, and we really haven't done much there yet, because I think particularly as a new brand, a lot of these first 6 months for us was learning about our inventory management with Target, like the very unsexy stuff. Like we had a lot of out of stocks with our bars because we didn't expect that they were going to be selling so well. So it was really hard to justify investing, more money on that side until we kind of figured that whole piece out. But I do think with, a little bit of that under our belts and, seeing how that did or did not affect our D2C business, I think we'll see the biggest substantial shift in our media mix or spend thresholds in the first half of next year, which will be an interesting transition point for us.
And talk about even the partnership with Target. Yeah. Like, how much are they involved in promoting your product in store? And just, I mean, because you hear different stories, and again, you're so used to getting all your own data, and now are they sharing this with you? Like, what have you sort of had to adjust to with that kind of relationship?
Yeah, I think Target has been a phenomenal partner for us, even on the product development side. I mean, a lot of the initial insights around what kind of bar would really move well off the shelves at Target came from our buyer there. She was really phenomenal in that. But I think that was kind of another reality check for us, is that then you're on your own. Target's not going to put you in a TV ad on month 2. Target's not going to amplify you across all of their social channels substantially. I mean, we were a tier 1 launch for them, and you'd maybe never know it. And so I think that's been really interesting for us, as we kind of have to control our own destiny there. And I mean, you guys tell me if come tell me later if that's what we should expect across every retailer, and it probably is. Which is hard for a D2C brand where we think so much about brand and we think so much about marketing. We want to be really close with our partners on that. Again, I think we just have to treat retail as an entirely different beast.
Well, before I'm going to open it up to everyone for questions, but I just want to ask, in terms of you talked about it. You mentioned that as you go into other retailers, which
Yes.
obviously I'm assuming that's the plan. Well, from what you've been going through, what have you learned? What's the most valuable thing as you move forward into 2023 that you're going to take with you, and maybe realize, okay, don't do it this way, do it this way, or whatever it may be?
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily anything different. It's doubling down on really good planning. I mean, Sarah, you mentioned this. So, I mean, it's the fundamentals, right? It's really good planning. It's knowing your customer really well. Obsessing about that, trying to find ways in which we can pin the DTC and retail business together. We'll continue to try and experiment there. We'll launch these retail products on our own D2C. I think that'll give us a really interesting profile on the buying behaviors there. And I think it's just really great creativity is hard, and again, there's so much limitation around what you can actually do in retail, and I think just doubling down on what makes Yumi different and trying to stand out in that way will continue to be where our focus is. And
get Evelyn back to writing, okay?
And get Evelyn back to writing, yes.
Definitely.
Writing more books.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Caitlin?
Oh, I'll ask a question. So your team, can you talk about if the e-commerce D2C team is separate from the team that works on the Target business, or is it together?
So the funny answer is we don't have an e-commerce team. We have, digital product people and engineers and a really scrappy marketing team. And we don't have a retail team. We have an incredible business development person, and we have a broker for Target, and we have a really scrappy marketing team. And so, yes, it's all one team because it's so small. I mean, even our president and our CEO are driving a lot of line review conversations. I mean, it is all really one small, scrappy team.
Yeah. Any questions? I'll ask one more. Okay.
Oh.
Love the talk. Trevor Sully with Choate. Just had a quick question, Caitlin, on the focus group side that you mentioned. Sounds like that is instrumentally important to your success as a brand, and really, as I took down, obsessing over knowing your customer. As a bit of a curiosity question, have you thought about using some sort of like interactive experience in order to kind of grow that from just being the friends of friends of friends approach and really being able to communicate with kind of the masses on the digital scale?
Yeah, definitely. And we've looked at a couple different vendors that do that. Is that what you guys do? Is that what you're asking? Were you just planting a seed? That would be so interesting if there was a platform that could help me scale that I could free trial for 3 months. That would be fantastic because the rest of them are too expensive. No, I mean, it's been really cool to see a lot of innovation in the tech space on partners that can help with that. And so, yeah, I mean, yes, we need that. We'd love to have that, especially now that I've exhausted my group of people.
As long as you can do it in a scrappier way.
Yeah.
Hi, Caitlin. Sneha with Tata Consumer Products. Question about how and why you chose Target as your first partner, and are you going to be doing exclusivity? I don't know if you are exclusive with Target, but are you going down that route with every retailer that you probably partner with then?
Yeah, I mean, Target is often the kind of launching pad for, I think, a lot of D2C brands. I think they've just demonstrated a lot of appetite for innovation and young brands, and it kind of fits in with their customer profile. And like I mentioned, they've also been great partners in even just the product development side and helping us there. And so Target made a lot of sense for us as a launch partner. We are exclusive with them for 1 year, and so when that runs up in July, hopefully we'll be in thousands and thousands and thousands of other retailers. But I also think it was really important for us to, do this retail expansion with one partner so we could really get our feet under us, and so that we can really go confidently into other retailers and say, look at the sales data here. Look at how effective we are from an operational perspective. We worked out all of the kinks in that way. And I feel like we've really, coming out of the first 6 months with Target, have really hit our stride in that. And it's been really fun to talk with other retailers with some of those proof points. Yeah.
All right. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much. That was awesome. And I'm sorry again for
No.
initial.